will examine alleged contact between the ancients and alien visitors. Let's start our discussion in Mexico, a country very rich in traditions, both Aztec and Mayan. There seems to be a relationship between what happened in the past and what's still happening today. We are at the airport of the capital, Mexico City. The radar has shown alien UFOs for some time. The UFO is piloted by someone and under control.
Tenemos 6 o 7 reportes de diferentes aeronaves, de diferentes tipos de aeronaves, en los que se incluyen desde 727, DC-9, 737.
We had 6 or 7 reports from different airplanes, 727, DC-9, 737, and an AT-47, who have had to veer away from the normal landing route because of UFOs.
Two
pilots from Air Mexico declared that they had almost collided with an object of a metallic type, about 30 meters long.
Con un aparato de color platino, aparentemente de 30 metros de largo, que se les echó prácticamente encima.
After having lowered the undercarriage, they looked up and realized they were risking a collision with an unidentified flying object. They immediately called the control tower and told them what was happening.
Y próximo a tomar la trayectoria final de la pista, al levantar la vista y encontró de frente este objeto de 30 metros de color platino que se les fue encima. Se les fue encima, ellos sintieron que se iban a colisionar con él, a lo cual hicieron un reporte inmediato a la torre de control. Nos acabamos de cruzar con un aparato en una forma fuerte, asustados.
As a result, the undercarriage was damaged. These are the extraordinary pictures taken near the airport of Mexico City by members of the group, the Vigilantes, which is composed of sky watchers, whose material is verified by the University of Mexico. In particular, it shows it wasn't a question of weather balloons, but of UFOs. They saw airlines and UFOs together on the same screens. Here is the UFO in the foreground.
Y el avión, lo curioso es que brilló igual.
Again, here is the UFO. On the 3rd of May 1975, the pilot Carlos de los Santos was flying in a Piper aeroplane. He called the control tower. Mayday, mayday. I no longer have control of the plane. I see 3 UFOs flying around me. One has touched the bottom of the plane. The plane is flying without my control. I can see the UFOs. One of them is opposite me. One is on the right wing, and one is apparently under the plane. Carlos was able to escape, but in other cases, in other countries, it doesn't always have a happy ending like this. Mexico City. The UFO sightings became very frequent after the total eclipse of the sun in 1991. After the eclipse, the Vigilantes organization was born. These are some of their photos. Here is a UFO, which seems to turn in and spiral on itself.
Ya no se ve, ¿verdad? Ya no hay nada. Ya salió otra.
Here is the same object, filmed from a different location. two of the many analyzed by the University of Mexico City. The first shows a UFO surrounded by an electromagnetic halo. The second, however, is that of a weather-sounding balloon. Here we have a picture of a UFO taken by the police and other photos of UFOs taken in Mexico. And here is the analysis of that on a computer. The researchers then went on to the place and interviewed the witnesses. They say there's no fraud, no hoax. Many sightings have happened in the area of Puebla, not very far from the capital, and at the foot of the volcano. Is there a relationship between sightings and volcanic activity? Here we meet Soledad, a pediatrician with the vigilantes.
Una relación muy, muy estrecha en todo esto con los volcanes.
Oh yes, there's a very simple relationship between the volcanic activity and the UFO sightings, and I can prove it. 1 week before the eruption, we saw a group of 8 to 10 UFOs, which were moving about frantically, as if they wanted to warn someone. Exactly a week later, there was a volcanic eruption.
Una semana después de tanto avistamiento es cuando hace erupción el volcán.
This is one of the many photos taken at that time. This is a night sighting, filmed by a Mexican cameraman. Hernandez. What they have seen are metallic objects, round, sometimes surrounded by a fire-like light or a halo. Certainly, they are rare pictures. They appear suddenly from nowhere and just as suddenly disappear into nowhere. So many people say they're ghosts, magic, but is it an intelligence which has always existed, which has always been in our culture, even in our pre-Hispanic culture?
Y eso se plasman a través también de las cosas prehispánicas que encontramos.
Here we are at Tepoztlán, a couple of hours from the capital, Mexico City, a village in which pre-Hispanic culture is still present in daily life and in its traditions. We meet Carlos Diaz, who in the last 15 years has taken stunning photos and films of UFOs. He says he's in contact with their occupants, and they are beings similar to us. Even these photos have been analyzed scientifically. They are enormous objects of light, which can transform themselves into metallic discs. Carlos Diaz. These objects, so many times, have remained motionless, suspended in the air for up to 2 hours, hovering over the mountain, the peak of light, above the horizon for up to 20 minutes. Sometimes they move from one peak to another, very slowly, sometimes, however, incredibly quickly.
Muchas veces lo hacen lentamente, lentamente, lentamente. Pero en muchas otras, su movimiento es rápido.
Carlos isn't the only one to have seen the UFOs. We've met so many people at Tepoztlán who speak about them as natural things. Mysterious, certainly, but seen by many. A cathedral has been built above the Aztec pyramid, using the material from it as a testimony to one culture superimposed upon another. Carlos. I think that what we call the UFO phenomenon today is what our fathers have always observed. a phenomenon which belongs to reality, which they've always looked at in a natural way, as something normal, without feeling chosen or anything else. They've known these happenings for centuries.
Para ellos es algo ya familiar porque se ha visto durante muchísimos años, tal vez muchísimos siglos.
The original tradition, Mayan or Aztec, talks of beings coming from the sky, looking like humans, but with extraordinary abilities and knowledge. For this reason, they were seen as gods, coming from other worlds or from other dimensions of reality. This doesn't mean godlike beings, creators of everything, but beings more involved than us, our bigger brothers. The numerous sightings of UFOs in relation to the total eclipse of the sun in 1991 are contained in the old Aztec prophecies. The Mexican journalist Jaime Mausman, one of the most thorough researchers of the phenomenon, talks about them. Here we see an Aztec pyramid which dominates the valley of Teposian. Jaime Mausman.
Mexico seems to be a very magical country with magical traditions, old legends, and there are many predictions, prophecies. There are prophecies from the 9th century. That's more than 1,000 years ago. And this prophecy said that we should have big disasters, natural disasters, big confrontations, probably war. They said that the big lords would fall to give new space for the new lords, the new bosses, let's say. And they also said this was the time of the meeting with the masters of the stars. There is another prophecy. This is an Aztec prophecy connected to the eclipse. This eclipse is part of the legend of the eclipses, and this is the sixth sun. And they said that in the era of the sixth sun, everything that was hidden and buried would be discovered, that the truth would be the seed of life and would be the sons of the sixth sun, or sons, those who would travel through the stars. And this prophecy is more than 500 years old. It means that there is something magical connected to it. Probably it's from very old past. Probably all these prophecies were done by them to alert us of what was happening and coming. I am really convinced this is real. I am really convinced this is coming from out of space, because the tape, the recording that was made in Metepec by Sara Cuevas proves that there is an extraterrestrial there connected to a very important sighting. That means that these UFOs are maneuvered by these extraterrestrials.
These are the pictures of the people from outer space, enhanced on the computer to make them more identifiable. And this is an old Aztec representation of a being coming down from the sky on a cloud, which rules a whole palace, and of a being coming down symbolically on a winged dragon, perhaps their way of indicating a flying object. Are they visitors from space? On this base relief, according to many experts, an astronaut is portrayed, sitting down in command of a spaceship. What can we say? In the old traditions, they talk about beings who came down from the sky to bring culture. Then they went away, saying that one day they would come down the old stairs again. The translation of the Mayan hieroglyphics says just this: one day, Kukulkan will return. Is he about to? In ancient cultures, beings from the sky were seen as gods. Is it only a fantasy? It seems not. Only a few years ago, anthropologists discovered the same phenomenon, which they called the cargo cult. Whole populations in New Guinea remained in total isolation from our civilization until towards the end of the Second World War. Then they saw helicopters and military planes land on their islands, which were transformed into small bases. To get round the population, the pilots bought gifts. At the end of the conflict, the bases were abandoned. The anthropologists who consequently returned there discovered that a new cult had been born. The natives adored the planes and its occupants. They became gods from the sky. The USA. For generations, the Hopi Indians have handed down the memory of the visit by beings from space, and they portray them like this. They are the Casina, mysterious beings who brought great teachings. For generations, these masked men have been dancing, so they will not be frightened of them when they return. The Casina descended from flying objects that the Hopi portray in these pictures. They believe that one day the Casina will return. Some tribes say that they've been visited in recent years by beings from space. The story of the Kajapo tribe in the Amazon hand down from father to son is the visit of a being from the sky, completely open and friendly, who didn't drink or eat. In one night, he learnt their language and taught them farming and hunting skills. Before leaving, he promised to return. Africa, Mali country of the Dogon, 1946. The old priest, Ogo Tomeli, explained to the anthropologist Marcel Griol their vision of the world. The constellation of Sirius is visible to the naked eye, but Griol was surprised to find that the Dogon knew Sirius B in minute detail, including a very weak star, only visible with powerful telescopes. Sirius B is described as very small, made of very heavy metal, rotating around Sirius A with a cycle of 50 years. All of that is accurate, but that's only been known for a few years. This looks like much more than a mere coincidence. The Dogons say that all has been taught to them by the Neuromo, who came from the stars on an arc, red as fire, but which became white when it landed. It had a pyramid shape. Surely this sounds like what we now call UFOs. The Dogon, in their feasts, remember the Neuromo as carriers of great wisdom. Even the Dogons say the Neuromo will return. But the UFO phenomenon seems to be present even in the distant past. These are some of the carvings discovered in the country's caves, almost living testimonies from thousands of years ago.